James Cheng is a born in Hong Kong, respected Vancouver architect who has put his amazing imprint on this city and others. He apprenticed under iconic Vancouver architect Arthur Erickson, was inspired by Bing Tom, and he studied at Harvard. Those credentials ensured he would have global impact. He hopes his fellow Canadian architects will pursue more projects abroad and here too. It is my pleasure to welcome James Cheng back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Thank you, Fanny. It's nice to be back.
Welcome back to your tower. What does it feel like to walk into a building you designed and created? Do you want to touch things and move them around?
Oh, no. It's like watching your kids grow up. It's fantastic. And to watch people use it, and hopefully they're using it in ways that you visualize that they would use it.
And then you can just go across the courtyard here to the Fairmont Pacific Rim. You designed that one too.
Well, we've been very lucky.
Yes, you have. But I know you're going to be speaking on the 24th at the Convention Center West about architects going further, Canadian architects going further.
Yes, I think it's time. The Americans been doing it for a long time, and Canadians, I guess we're more shy, and but now we're beginning to.
Yes, but why do you think, because Canadian architects are so good, and so are American architects, but why do you think Canadian architects are more reluctant?
We're not as aggressive as a people, but generally speaking, we're more interested in the sustainable side of things. The Americans are more into the big office buildings, the shopping centers. So what we're doing, like the airports, master planning communities and stuff like that. So we have different areas of specialization.
What was your first project abroad?
Well, actually, it was in China. It was on an island. It was in 1992. It was a food-producing island. It has beautiful lychees, rice fields, irrigation canals, and we were trying to teach them how to preserve all that, but still add development potential to it.
You, born in Hong Kong, have some sense of what China is about.
Right, and being born in Hong Kong, I appreciate the open spaces and the natural scenery, because Hong Kong doesn't have much.
Where did you grow up? Like in what space?
I actually grew up mostly in Hong Kong, and then I finished my last year of high school in Everett, Washington. Okay,
but in your apartment, I think you flew kites off the top of a building when you were a kid.
That's right.
So I'm suggesting you grew up in a small place.
Tiny, where we have 3 generations living there.
And what did you learn about urbanism and living in a then that you use now? You know, people living on top of one another and living very close together.
Well, it came to me slowly. All I knew when I was a kid was to get out of Hong Kong, because I loved the cowboy movies, the John Waynes and the Utah, the Red Cliffs and stuff, and I thought, wow, what a wonderful country to be in. So it's only after starting living here, I started to want to think about how to combine the urbanity with the wilderness or the serenity of a natural environment.
Because you have said, or you have written, that it's important how people live in the buildings, yes, but it's also important how people live in the space between the buildings.
Absolutely. And that's been the guiding principle of all of my work. All the work we do in Vancouver is about the outside, about the spaces between buildings, rather than the building itself.
But the streetscape, how it feels when you're on the street, what?
Yeah, now more the social and cultural interface. Because you have to define the semi-public spaces where people feel like they can interact, or grand public space where other people could gather. So now we understand the subtlety of space between buildings.
Because I understand that, because it's certainly fun to live in a tower and enjoy the beautiful views and all of that, but it's also important to encounter each other in what you call ennobling spaces.
Absolutely, because I live in the tower in the West End the first 3 years I was in Vancouver. I never met my neighbors. I have not met a single soul in that building. So that has a big imprint on me, that something isn't right with that type of living.
Okay, take me to Shangri-La, another one of your buildings. How did you conceive the space
First
down
of all,
below?
We conceive Shangri-La as a series of public spaces. It's not about the tower, it's about all the spaces. So we have a public art gathering place. We have a little mound with bamboo grove where people could sit up there and have conversations. We have a plaza where people can sit around, and then we encourage all the restaurants to have sidewalk cafes. Urban Fare have windows that open to the street. So more opportunities for people to encounter each other.
How is it different for you working in Vancouver, a city you know well, and working in a city in India or a city in Brazil?
Mainly the cultural difference. We have to understand how privileged we are. In Vancouver, we're more or less all equal, but not so in India, not so in China, not so in Brazil. So the underprivileged people really need a helping hand, and often they're the one that they get displaced by the new development. So we as planners have to figure out ways to help these people.
And what do you do? Say you're in a poor town in China.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did at Haikou. They took the farmers' land for new development.
Is Haikou the island?
Like Hawaii of China.
The Hawaii of China. Haikou
is in Hainan Island.
Okay.
It's the capital of Hainan Island.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and because it's a very old city, a very poor city, as you can see, it's got no sense of space. So the city understand if they were to grow, they have to move to a new area. So and then we learn from the old town. This is the very old town where people actually live about where they work. So this is probably the most sustainable thing, that you work around the same place you live, and then you have social interaction. And they built this little beautiful tree-lined coconut grove leading you to the new part. And the nickname for this Haikou is Coconut City. So we use that as a starting point. Right. So this is the field. It's just empty farm fields and desolated area. But what they do is they give the farmer replacement housing and money. But that is actually a big social problem, because now the farmers have nothing to do. Right. They got a place to live, they got some money, but they lost all their friends and their livelihood. So what we try to do is to have a relocation area, bring the farmers back, have a demonstration area where we can do urban agriculture. Most important, locate the new schools in that zone so that the farm kids and the city kids can actually go to the same school. So like this, they can even go to class in the middle of the urban agricultural area and meet each other, and therefore eliminate some of the boundaries between these different social classes.
So you can live, work, play. And what is
and then we also have a cultural band, because this is where the trade wind was go through. It's almost like Central Park. This is where we reserve it in the heart of the city. So when they have money, they can put in bandstands, museums, galleries, and outdoor spaces. And then we have promenades that elevated the bicycles to the same, bringing back the bicycles, because China used to have millions of bicycles. Now they banned them.
Really?
So, yes, because they deemed them to be blocking traffic, because everybody wants cars now. So we propose to bring them back as a form of transportation and shaded walkway. And then we have a series of canals to catch the water, because with with the wind blowing through the shades of the trees and over the water, you can drop the temperature by almost 10 degrees. So you don't need to rely on air conditioning so much. So this is the kind of ideas that we can bring to this kind of third world.
Sure, and you put the water element in
and
many
it becomes
of your
an
projects,
environment
I know.
For residential area, recreation area, and so on.
It's really beautiful. Live, work, play, green space, and grow food.
Right,
Makes sense.
absolutely. In segments. So whenever they develop, they would do it all in one block. So within each, what we call segment, they would have all of that. So you wouldn't have housing on one side, office another, industry, and then everybody has to travel and drive, right? If you live in the same area, you can walk, you can meet people, and reestablish the social scene that villages used to have.
Sure, and well, the sharing part is great, but just the community feeling, it's a Jane Jacobs concept, as you know so well.
Absolutely.
In The Death and Life of a Great American City, she just always said, anytime she was here, she said, we must have a space where people can meet and enjoy and all of that. Now you're, I don't know if you're doing it yet, but you are looking at Ambleside in West Vancouver.
We are trying to do exactly the same thing. We felt that Ambleside, the 1300 block, is actually, we call the hinge point. It's the Ambleside Park and the Arts and Cultural District. And there, we could be what Jane Jacobs say, there. We could create a place where the West Van people could meet each other, enjoy the culture, enjoy the park, walk on the beach. But what they don't have now is a place to sit and have a glass of wine and watch the sunset.
Well, it's true, Sleepy
Or
Hollow.
coffee.
You know how we are in Sleepy Hollow. We don't know if we want any obstruction on the water. But when you think of other places, I know you're inspired by Mykonos in Greece. And we really have our Mykonos.
Yes, and also Ambroside
Cornwall.
is south-facing. So you get the sun all the time. So it's a natural place to be.
It makes sense to me. I mean, there's the seawall and the doggy park, and it is much of it is native land,
Yes.
native territory. So there'll be some
And you have the
issues
ferry
there.
building that's already turned into an art gallery. And you have Don Vaughn's water sculpture. So, you know, pieces are there.
Yeah, absolutely. So as an architect, when you go in, do you walk the? I know Arthur Erickson used to always walk.
He used to
the
camp
lot,
on the site.
Camp on the site to get a sense of what needed to be there and how it integrated.
Yes. Oh, I spent a lot of time over there at different times of the day, morning, evening, noontime, rainy days, you know, just to get the feel for it.
And I understand, thinking of ski areas, there's Aspen and there's Vail in Colorado. Vail is like they brought Europe in and built it, and it's almost too much.
Yeah.
Aspen,
It's glitzy.
It's glitzy, and Aspen still has the magic. Of course, it was a town,
Right.
not a built
Right.
area. It was
It's
once
more authentic.
and historic.
Yes.
And they've managed to keep that and yet modernize it.
Exactly. And hopefully that's what we could do for West Van. We don't want to transplant something, but we want to build from the tradition, because West Van is known for the West Coast architecture. And we have Erickson there, Ron Tom, B.C. Binning. So there's a cultural history that we need to respect, and I hope to find a thread and bring it to the 21st century.
Sure, because the Erickson homes there, and there's certainly the Ron Tom homes and all of that, and it is so West Coast, so magnificent.
Because when we show Mykonos, there was a gasp, because people were worried that we're actually going to copy Mykonos and put it in West Van.
Oh dear, you have to watch West Van, you know how we are.
Yes.
You can't even put in a parking meter or there's trouble.
Yes.
James Cheng, our guest architect, designed the Shaw Tower and many other fine buildings in this city. We'll come back.